welcome to another video. So I just wanted to film a quick video with some tips and tricks of how to use my coloring pages. Now these are downloadable coloring pages available on these snake tier on my Patreon, so if you're interested in that, I will link it in the iCard and down below in the description. So this is the first coloring page available. And I printed this out on my inkjet, and inkjets aren't permanent, so I just wanted to test what mediums would be okay if you were printing it out. So alcohol markers work well. I use pro markers for this example, and there's no bleeding or anything, and it works really nicely. And this is some water soluble markers, and I also went over with some water, and it did bleed slightly. It didn't bleed that much, but I did end up, like, the ink did kind of come off on my marker nibs, so as I remember, it's not permanent. So I just wanted to show you guys how you can use this, like maybe transfer it onto some thicker paper if you want to do watercolors or work with wet mediums. So yeah, so I will show you two techniques. One is using graphite paper, and with the graphite paper you want like this darker, slightly more shinier side to face down on your paper, and I'm just working in my sketchbook. And you lay that down, and then you have the line art facing up. Now I don't think this will fit perfectly on the paper just because my sketchbook is a bit smaller, though of course, like, when you're printing it out you can adjust the size on your printer so it wouldn't be too much of an issue. And as long as the shiny side is facing down, you just trace over the lines. Okay, so where was I? Someone the phone rang. So I like to use a ballpoint pen just because I can see where I've traced a little bit easier, but you can use anything, and the ballpoint pen actually doesn't have to work. You just need something like it, and then you just hold down. What I tend to do is I tend to stick the paper and the graphite paper like at the top with some like masking tape or washi tape, so that I can, but like to the top of the paper that I'm working on, so that I can lift it without shifting it to see what's going on underneath. But since this is an example, I'm not going to do that this time. And you press pretty hard, you know, just like you're drawing, like tracing over something. And I'm not going to do this perfectly just so that the video stays short. I just want to show you some of the options. And I don't know, we do have a laser print in the house, so maybe I could test that out, because as far as I'm aware, laser printers are supposed to be permanent, so that should work with water pretty well. But I know a lot of households don't have that, so I wanted to show you guys what you can use as a replacement. And I'm not being very neat with this. Alright, so that's just the outline. And then you have your image transferred. Now you can see I didn't do this very neatly just because it is a bit wobbly. But then that just works really well to get it onto your nicer paper. So if you don't have graphite paper, which I know, again, a lot of people probably don't, what you can do is, in a way, make your own graphite paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over with a pencil. This is 8B, and I'm just using this just because it's a bit softer, so it'll be easier to transfer onto the paper. And what you do is you flip your paper over, and then you just kind of rub the pencil over where your image will be. And you want to get enough graphite on there that when you then trace over your image, it will transfer nicely. And I don't do this one a lot, mostly because I have graphite paper. But actually, I'm calling it the wrong thing. It's carbon paper, actually. I have to correct myself. Carbon paper. But carbon paper is just basically graphite. So I think this should be enough. And then you flip it over. Again, you can tape the paper so that it won't shift. And then you trace over just like you did with the pen. So I'm just going to test first with the whisker, just to make sure that there was enough graphite. Just about. I think I need a little bit more. So what you can do is you can scribble in one direction and scribble in the next, so you kind of get the places that you missed before. And I'm using this pencil because this is pretty much just a stick of graphite, but you don't have to use a pencil like this. You can use any graphite pencil and just rub it on the side like that. Just use the edge of the edge of the pencil. So that's a bit more graphite, so that should work a bit better. And one of the pros with doing this technique is that you can then go in and rub out, which is useful. Right, let's see how this goes. Okay, that's better. And then you just go around and trace just like you did before. Alright, and then you have a much lighter transfer, and I think, now I tend to only use the carbon paper for when I'm using acrylics, but this transfer would probably actually work a lot better for watercolors just because it's so light. So you could barely see it. But once you've transferred it on there, because I know it's very light and the camera's barely picking it up, once you've transferred it on there, you can then go over your lines and strengthen it if you want to, or just go straight in with your paint. So now that I've gone over, you can see it's a lot easier. So using the pencil to transfer is actually a really nice way to get a nice light transfer that would be easier to not only rub out but to go over with watercolors, since watercolors are transparent. And another thing I wanted to test out on this video, what I tend to do is when I'm going to do a watercolor illustration, I sketch with watercolor pencils, just because then it'll just dissolve into the watercolor a lot easier. So I thought I would test that out to see if that would actually work. So I'm just going to do it on the corner. I'm thinking maybe I should have used a darker color though. Let's test with a lighter and a darker color. Okay, it does transfer, but it is incredibly light. You can barely see it, but that does actually work. So scribbling over with a watercolor pencil actually does work, and it transfers much lighter than the graphite transfer was, but this will just make it easier to do your watercolor. So I hope this helps you use my coloring pages better. I just accidentally got some water on the print and you can see how much it runs. So that really wouldn't work with watercolor. I will test it with the laser printer, and I will pop some photos at the end of the video or somewhere in between to show you guys how that works. I'm hoping that it does, so that if you do have that, it'll work. But again, if you want to do this on thicker paper, like 200 GSM and up, printers sometimes don't like that. So if you want to, then you can either use your carbon paper, but if you don't have that, graphite paper, not graphite paper, use the scribbling with the pencil technique, and that will also make it a lot easier to rub out, because rubbing out the carbon paper is problematic. It does smudge just a little bit, and it just doesn't really work very nicely. But rubbing out the graphite transfer, like with the pencil, it's no longer there. So this is a good way to transfer it onto like watercolor paper and stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this quick video. Please do give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you haven't already, and please click that notification bell. My regular videos are every Friday, so if you don't want to miss out on that, please do subscribe and click the bell. So I will see you guys for my next regular Friday video. And yeah, let me know what you think of the coloring page. Do you like the koi fish circling each other? I quite enjoyed the design, so let me know what you think. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys this coming Friday. Bye!